The Baltimore Ravens triumphed over their hated division rival in the Pittsburgh Steelers this weekend. Lamar finally got that monkey off his back, beat the Steelers, beat Mike Tomlin, beat their high-end defense, and this game might wind up deciding the AFC North. The Steelers still have to play the Chiefs. Their schedule's kind of rough. Odds are they're going to pick up another loss in their final two games. Ravens, not so much. They get to play the Texans, who are super injured, and they get to play the Browns. So they are probably going to win out. And this game told me two things. One, if Pittsburgh wants to compete for the Super Bowl, have any sort of offense whatsoever, they need George Pickens on the field. If they don't have a true number one receiver who can stretch the field, their offense is lethargic. No one can get open. No one can get separation. Mike Williams, Van Jefferson, Darnell Washington, it does not matter. Nobody is getting open without Pickens absorbing those number one cornerbacks, absorbing those safety looks, making life easier for the Steelers. He also makes their run game a lot easier to function, puts the safety further back, lets Najee Harris get some momentum, although he has had a bad couple of games, so we may be seeing less and less as time goes on. Ultimately, I'm not that worried. They're also missing three defensive stars and had TJ Watt injured. This game does not make me abandon faith on the Steelers. They can still be a contender. They just need to get healthy desperately.
I think the Steelers, they peaked at the wrong point in the season. 11 weeks in, they looked like they could be one of the best teams. Now, after a couple losses, you mentioned some of the injuries on that defense, George Pickens not being available to their offense, they have fallen off, and these injuries have exposed where this team is extremely weak. Yes, Russell Wilson has proved to us that he is one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's had a very solid season, but the George Pickens injury has revealed how reliant this offense, how reliant Russell Wilson is on the couple big plays a game that open everything else up. Because when you think of the Steelers, you think, oh, they have a solid run game. They're 11th in the NFL in rushing. Najee Harris does he have 1,000 yards yet, or he's on pace for it?
Not quite, but he's close.
He's going to reach that mark. Jaylen Warren banged up at the beginning of the year, but he's had some solid games over the last couple weeks. But this Steelers team is second to last in the NFL in yards per carry, while being 11th in the NFL in total rushing. So just put that number in perspective. The Ravens have about the same number of carries, but have over 1,000 rushing yards, 1,000 rushing yards more. Same thing goes for the Eagles. So when you're missing the player who's the best player on your offense, gives you a couple big plays a game, is a reliable target on third down, after you get the 3 yards on the first two downs in a cloud of dust, your offense is going to struggle. The field shrinks when you don't have that big playability down the field, and it gives the opposing defense the ability to suffocate your offense. So I would definitely agree, if they want to make any noise come playoff time, they need George Pickens on the field, but I think this injury has also revealed where this Steelers team is incredibly weak.
I wouldn't even say they're weak. They're still one of the more effective rushing offenses. Effective is not the right. They're still one of the more, physically bruising rushing offense. They get tough yards, they milk that time of possession, they dominate in that field, and rely on their defense to do a lot of legwork. In this game, you see the 34-17 foul score, you think it was a blowout. The Steelers were driving late and Russell Wilson threw a pick six. This game was still very competitive, despite George Pickens not being on the field. Despite Dante Jackson, Deshaun Elliott, Larry Ogunjobi, and TJ Watt being hobbled but still being out there. They were very banged up, but this was still a one-possession game until Russ threw a bad pick six. So I'm not worried about the Pittsburgh Steelers in the slightest. If they get healthy for the playoffs, there is no reason they can't shut the Ravens down again. There is no reason they can't shut the Chiefs offense down again and win a game 18-16. Well, the Bills are probably smoking them, but there's a real chance this team goes on a run if they get healthy. We're acting like George Pickens tore his ACL. He will be back. He's going to be on the field again this season. He's not done.
Well, you can't hand wave the Russell Wilson interception and not hand wave the Lamar Jackson interception that happened to play prior.
I mean, I can definitely hand wave it. It's fairly easy for me to hand wave it. One was a pick six late in the game. The other wasn't. I mean, come on now. There's a slight...
Yeah, but you could argue that if it wasn't a pick six, the Ravens would have gone right down to score. If you're hand waving both of them, the Ravens would have gone down to score.
One of those resulted in a touchdown. One of them didn't. Looking at the Steelers, it is going to be an issue for them if they cannot stop the run, though. Obviously, Derrick Henry is the best running back they are going to see in the AFC. But a guy like James Cook, Isaiah Pacheco could really get going on them up the middle on the ground, just pound this one out. Another reason they need to get healthy. Patrick Queen was sorely lacking against his former team this week. That might be an area of actual weakness as opposed to, oh, their offense isn't good with George Pickens not being on the field. I'm still fairly optimistic about the Steelers. On a neutral side with a healthy team, I would take them over the Baltimore Ravens, but that's just my personal taste. Still think they're a contender, but here we are.
Speaking to the Steelers, I think this game also kind of proves they need home field advantage to give them a little extra oomph come playoff time, because I think this Ravens team, they're a more talented team when healthy. You mentioned the Steelers, their rushing attack, their bruising, they run out the clock. The only reason that is a successful element of their game plan is because of the big playability of George Pickens and Russell Wilson's ability to throw the ball down the field. But it is not that effective of a run game or not that effective of an offensive game plan if they don't have that element to their game. If George Pickens gets shut down, or if he's not even on the field in general, the run game is not that effective.
Shockingly enough, missing your superstar wide receiver will limit your offense. Bouncing over to the Baltimore Ravens, obviously a good win. I don't want to discredit them at all. Their defense has played better in recent weeks. Some of that high-end talent is really coming alive, particularly in the secondary. If they can get Derrick Henry his 20, 30 carries a game, get him at that 140, 150 yard mark, really just impose their will on people, Lamar Jackson's life gets infinitely easier. He had 3 passing touchdowns. None of them were that dynamic, that far away. It's him finishing drives, which Derrick Henry does a lot of the legwork for. They can win games. The ultimate question is, of course, going to be, can their defense hold up to a really high-powered offense in the playoffs like the Bills? Obviously, they beat an injured Bills team without Amari Cooper earlier in the year. Will that be the same come playoff time in Buffalo? Hard to say. And will Lamar be able to handle the playoff pressure? I didn't really learn anything new about the Ravens. They're still a very good team with some very clear question marks.
For the Ravens, I think it was a very encouraging game from the standpoint. This game is about as close as you can get to a playoff atmosphere for the Ravens, taking on a division rival that they routinely lose to, and they did not play outside of themselves. They did not press. Their defense took care of business. On the offensive side of the ball, they did what they're good at. They relied on Derrick Henry to run the ball down the field. Lamar Jackson was not running that often. He picked apart the Steelers' defense when he needed to, made big throws, made a big throw down the field to Zay Flowers. So I really was encouraged by the fact they coached really well. They did not let the moment get to them. This game sort of was playing for the AFC North title if they went out and the Steelers lose another game. So I think from a coaching perspective and Lamar Jackson not pressing in a game that has high stakes was encouraging, and it's always good to see Derrick Henry run for 160 yards.
I mean, you can say high stakes. It's a regular season game, which was getting played on a Saturday, so I don't know how high we really want to make the stakes during college football Saturday, where no one was really watching the NFL all that much.
More people were watching the NFL than college football.
So there were lower stakes. Maybe by the second half of some of those games, there were lower stakes than you might want to admit for that game. So not exactly a playoff atmosphere. Oh, they won.
I said it's as close as you can get. I didn't say
as close as you can get is opening night at Arrowhead Stadium when you're playing the reigning Super Bowl champion in their first home game of the year. That's as close as you can get outside of the weather factor. They'll maybe get into a playoff game here against the Texans, who could be fighting for that playoff spot if the Colts continue to win. AFC South is a complete joke, but that's a topic for a different video.
It's also encouraging. Justin Tucker has made 9 straight extra points and 2 field goals over the last 2 games.
So you're saying he's due for a miss?
No, I'm saying he's been good. So maybe, And the only question for the Ravens in the playoffs is what will it look like going to Buffalo and potentially Arrowhead?
Not good. That's the answer to that question. Anyway, those were our thoughts on a decisive AFC North matchup. Let us know what you think down in the comment section. Use code Thicc on Underdog with 2 C's. Daily best ball drafts, phenomenal pick'ems, a wide range of action. Get up to $1,000 bonus cash if you use our code to sign up, and we will see you in the next video.